Welcome into the Steelers Talk Live Show. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Thank you guys so much for joining me here on a Thursday. Of course, we got MLB playoffs today. We got Thursday Night Football tonight. We got a lot of stuff going on in the sporting world, but I appreciate each and every one of you for stopping by here during the bye week to talk some Steelers football. We got a loaded show for you guys today. We're going to be breaking down the latest Steelers news and rumors. We're going to be talking about some switch-ups that we have been seeing in the national media in terms of the narrative surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers from guys like Colin Cowherd, Dan Orlovsky, and more. There's certainly been a narrative switch surrounding the black and gold. Then we'll get into a kind of a spotlight video in our second segment here today, where I'm going to be telling you guys why I believe Pittsburgh's offense is about to change in a major way once they get back from the bye when they play the Cleveland Browns in Week 6. Then we'll do a little bit of a check-in on college football and the draft-eligible quarterbacks, and there's 8 quarterbacks right now that I think could be in contention to be first-round picks and be taken by the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 2026 NFL Draft. And then, of course, we've got our weekly mailbag coming up later in today's show. So if you guys want to get on the Q&A at the end of the show, you want to get on the show for free, all you have to do is put your question in the live chat accompanied by hashtag Steelers. If you don't put hashtag Steelers in the comments that you put your question in, then Ponzi, our producer, isn't able to see it. So if you guys want to get your question on the show today, you get down there in the live chat, put hashtag Steelers, and then whatever question you want after that before pressing send. So for example, in one message, you put hashtag Steelers, will Pittsburgh win the Super Bowl, or whatever question that you guys want surrounding the black and gold. If you have a question that you want me to answer today, don't be shy. Get those hashtag Steelers down there in the comment section for a chance to get on the show and to guarantee your spot on the show today. You guys can send in your question with a super chat today. Any dollar amount, $2, $5, $10, $20, doesn't matter. If you guys super chat and you donate any money to our show, we're going to put you up on screen and we're going to get you on the mailbag. So I want to see who are the real ones. We got 150 people already here on a Thursday. Spam those me's if you have made it to today's live show. I see Jason Steele is here. We have Damian Roy. We have Eric Gender. We got Zara Craig. We got my lovely fiance, Cassie Voth, coming to us from Minnesota. She's visiting family this week. We got Pat. We got Damian. We got Jack Hay. We got Zara Craig, Jason Steele, Eric Gender, Peasy Games, Robert Kirkpatrick, Elevate LTs. We've got Eugene Payne. We've got Sports Talk with Chris, Richard Hunt. We've got Mexamander is here, Black Wolf 412. We got Leon Schiltz. We got Edgar. We got Enzo. We got Hot Rod 24, 913 Florida. Leon Schiltz. I hope I'm saying that right, Leon. We got Gonzo, Cam, we've got EJ, got Jacob C. We got a whole crew of Yinzers ready to talk some Steelers football here today. So let's bring on our producer here today. Mr. Producer Ponzi is here. He's rocking his Padres hat for his Padres. Big game for the Fathers tonight.
You know, speaking of playoffs, we get our question right here to start off the show. You know, does Pitt have over or under 50% chance to win a playoff game this year? Certainly hoping the Padres win tonight, but I'd probably put it about a 60.
Yeah, you know, I think that there's a pretty decent chance that they could win a playoff game this year. Be specifically healthy. You know, that offense can do a lot of good things, okay? And some of the losses that they've taken have been really tough losses, close losses to really good football teams, right? So they've lost to the Bills, the Lions, and the Chiefs, 3 really good football teams, right? So it's far from over, but I do think Pittsburgh has put themselves in a position here where they're going to get better as the season goes on. If they can stay healthy, if they can continue to play good football, I think they've found their identity on both sides of the football. I think they went through a little bit of an identity crisis in the first 3 weeks of the season or so, and then they really found their groove in Ireland going up against the Minnesota Vikings, and I think that's going to continue on the other side of the bye. So, you know, already having that 2-game advantage versus Baltimore. Lamar may not play this weekend or next week, and 2 very crucial games for Baltimore. So, you know, we're at a point here, guys, where we could be looking at the Steelers getting to a 5-1 start and the Ravens starting out 1-5 by the end of Week 7. So, if that happens, obviously the Steelers have a 4-game head start around midway through the season. In the season for Baltimore, in terms of their chances of winning the division, go down significantly. So I think the chances of Pittsburgh having a home playoff game are relatively high right now because I believe in this football team. And if you're home for the playoffs, your chances of winning go up dramatically, all right? having that home field advantage is huge. Now, obviously, the Steelers have had a couple of opportunities for home games in the postseason during this stretch run where they haven't won a playoff game since the 2016 season. They lost to Jacksonville in the 2017 season, and they lost to Cleveland the last time they had a home playoff game. And obviously, you want to get back into Acrisure Stadium in playoff football. But, when you have to travel to Arrowhead Stadium in Mahomes, you have to go up against Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. In Baltimore, you have to play Josh Allen and the Bills in Buffalo. And you don't have the same level of quarterback play. The chances of you upsetting those teams on the road in the postseason go down dramatically. But if you're at home and you're playing a wild card team and you have the Acrisure Stadium environment, you got the terrible towels flying, the chances of a win in the playoffs go up. So I think the Steelers right now have a team that is assembled to win in the postseason. I think that this team hopefully will put themselves in Super Bowl contention by the end of the season. And I think the chances of them winning a playoff game this year are as high as they've been probably since 2017, Ponzi, when the Killer Bees were still going.
I feel like, everyone talks about the 2020 season a lot, and I feel like that season was a little bit weird in general. Obviously COVID, Kevin Stefanski wasn't even there when the Browns won that playoff game against the Steelers. And I believe it was limited fan attendance or no fan attendance. And that does really, affect the game. Mm-hmm. I think we saw a lot of home teams lose that year just because there was no fans. And, I think that, within the Black and Gold faithful, there is a lot of momentum whenever you're at home with the Yinzers in attendance and it's dominated. So I feel like, playing in that home crowd will be super helpful. Obviously, we don't know how the season's going to end yet, but I put it at a 60 just because we're so early in the season. And I feel like that's pretty high.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty darn high. I mean, right now there's an AI simulation that ran through a bunch of simulations, and right now the Pittsburgh Steelers have the second best odds in the AFC to make the playoffs. The only team with higher odds is the Buffalo Bills, and they have a 99.9% chance of making the postseason. The Steelers have, I think it was 84% chance, which was number 2 in the entire AFC. It's more than the Colts, it's more than Chiefs, it's more than Baltimore, obviously. It's more than any other team outside of the Buffalo Bills. So the fact that simulation, which obviously goes into AI, goes into the trends that we've seen in the first 4 weeks, it certainly looks good for the Pittsburgh Steelers at this point in the season, but obviously it was looking good last year at 10-3, and then the wheels fell off. So you got to keep going, you got to stay focused, and I'm sure, hopefully, Mike Tomlin is going to keep these guys focused as the season goes on. Justin Yankuski with my friend here with a $5 super chat says, what role do you think Bentley will play in the rotation after the bye? It's a good question, Justin, and I can't say I know for sure because Peyton Wilson probably played his best game of the season, and he played an every down role, a true every down role. He was back to playing that every down kind of role inside the Steelers defense versus the Vikings. Cole Holcomb, I think, only had 10 defensive snaps or something like that in Dublin. So we'll see what the linebacker rotation looks like. Bentley is known as kind of like an Landon Roberts kind of thumper type. Now, I actually think he's a little bit better in coverage than Landon Roberts was. Landon was just terrible in coverage. He was a complete liability. So, teams could take advantage of him in the play-action passing game on early downs. I think Bentley is a little bit better in coverage than Roberts is, but he's not quite the run defender that Landon is either. So you're still getting a thumper. You're still getting a big body, somebody that's got a lot of experience. Be interesting to see how they kind of manage their linebacking room because I really like this linebacking foursome that they've got going on right now. I trust Patrick Queen. I trust Peyton Wilson to some degree. I trust Cole Holcomb as a longtime starter in this league, and then I do trust Juwan Bentley as well. So we'll see what the plan is here for Pittsburgh. But, Justin, I wish I had a more concrete answer for you, but I don't really have that right now. So if you guys want to get on the show today, again, if you want to guarantee your spot on the mailbag, you guys can send in a donation. It's not required or anything like that, but we do appreciate all the different donations that people bring in, guys. Every single cent that you donate via Super Chat, Venmo, or PayPal goes towards us here at Steelers Talk to help our channel out. It helps out our equipment. It helps us improve our graphics. It helps us keep the lights on and pay rent. So if you guys have some money today that you want to donate to the show, you got a question that you want to guarantee to get on the mailbag, all that great stuff, you guys can send in your donations today. But if not, no worries. We're here to talk football. Speaking of that, let's get into our first segment here today, Ponzi. First up, the latest Steelers news and rumors. I'm going to be reacting to some of the media reactions and narratives that have shifted surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. Then we'll get into a way that I think the Pittsburgh Steelers offense is about to change in a big way once we get back from the bye. Then we'll check in on the college quarterback market here and some of the draft-eligible guys and which QBs I would be considering right now if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then we'll get into the mailbag. So if you have a question, don't forget, get down there in the comment section with hashtag Steelers or Super Chat to guarantee your spot on the mailbag this week. Without further ado, let's get into our first segment of the day, the latest news and rumors surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers fans, you will not believe what Colin Cowherd said on his show this week about Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think it's really going to shock a lot of people here. But before we get into what Colin said this week about the black and gold, make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We are now only 188 subscribers behind our Warriors channel, which we are currently competing with to be the 7th channel in chat sports history to get to 100,000 subscribers. Yesterday, we closed the gap on Warriors by nearly 200 subscribers. I think it was 199 subscribers exactly. So we are gaining ground and fast versus the Golden State Warriors today, crew and Steelers Smitty. And you guys remember, I've been saying it on the show here lately, whichever channel gets to 100K first owes the host of the other channel owes the other one a $500 steak dinner. So Smitty is definitely sweating right now with how much ground we are gaining. Let's finish the job right now. Click that subscribe button if you guys want extensive Steelers coverage. Join the largest Steelers news program anywhere here on YouTube. All right, so now let's shift over to Colin Cowherd here, who has switched up his take in the way that he feels about Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers this season. Now, we can take a look at what Colin said about the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers before the season began, just to give you guys a little bit of a bearing here on where Colin was before the season. This is what he had to say. All the Steelers are for Aaron Rodgers is a more organized Jets. Defensive coach, defensive culture. Aaron doesn't trust the O-line. A lot of stuff is quick. You've got a number 1 receiver, but can't really depend on a 2. The Steelers keep drafting offensive linemen and spending money on it, but it's not any good. This idea that they're all in Pittsburgh, it's just the Jets. It's like McDonald's and Burger King. McDonald's is just more buttoned up than Burger King. It's still fast food, okay? You're not going to convince me it's anything more. And now, Colin all of a sudden is a big believer in Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Apparently, he was blown away with what he saw from the black and gold when he watched this team take on and defeat the Minnesota Vikings in Dublin over the weekend. This is what Colin had to say this week. I've been saying this for years. Tomlin's fine. The defense will make plays. They spend a bunch of money on it. It's not a real chaotic franchise. They can't run the ball. Their pass pro is shaky. I thought on Sunday they blew me away. 130 rushing yards. Aaron had only 4 balls hit the ground. He and DK Metcalf clearly work. And again, this is against a real team in the Minnesota Vikings. It's the first time I've watched the Steelers offense, honestly, in years, and I was like, quote, oh, they could win a playoff game, unquote. This is not the Steelers I've watched for the last 6 years. And PFF, if you guys don't know, has actually graded Aaron Rodgers as the second lowest graded quarterback in the NFL through the first 4 weeks. And Colin this week actually came to the defense of Aaron Rodgers after, frankly, I think Pro Football Focus is disrespecting Aaron Rodgers here as his grade, which is currently at a 50.4. That is 37th out of 38 eligible quarterbacks according to PFF grading. Right now, they have guys like Cam Ward who can barely complete a pass in Tennessee. That is a completely dysfunctional offense there in Nashville. He has a higher grade than Aaron Rodgers. J.J. McCarthy, who has looked like the worst quarterback in football for 7 of his first 8 quarters as an NFL quarterback, has a higher grade. Carson Wentz, the guy Rodgers just beat in Dublin, has a higher grade. Jake Browning in that offense in Cincinnati that can't move the football to save their lives has a higher grade. And then Joe Flacco and Russell Wilson, 2 quarterbacks that just got benched, have a higher grade than Aaron Rodgers. So it's an absolute joke, and to Colin's credit, he did call that out this week on his show. This is what he had to say. I think you have to be careful about PFF grading. I've watched every snap Geno Smith has taken this year. Aaron's the better quarterback. Aaron is Chris Paul. He's not Steph Curry on this Steelers team. He's Chris Paul. Occasionally go hit DK Metcalf on a back shoulder throw. He's new here. He has a good enough defense. So kudos to Colin for kind of coming to his senses here. All right, there's plenty of room on the bandwagon here. And if you think Aaron Rodgers is the NFL's worst starting quarterback right now, like PFF seems to think, I think you're an absolute idiot. All right, you haven't watched the games. You don't really understand the fact that he's not throwing the ball down the field. Well, it's because teams are playing too high safety coverages against him. He's trying to get the ball out in space to his playmakers. This team is number 1 in the entire NFL in yards after the catch, and part of that is Aaron Rodgers is being extremely smart with the football, and he's getting the ball out in space to his playmakers and really hitting them in stride. I mean, that DK Metcalf touchdown last week in Dublin isn't a touchdown unless Aaron Rodgers throws it perfectly on the body, on the break, in stride, where DK Metcalf can maintain that head of steam. So Aaron Rodgers is actually playing really good football right now. He's super efficient in the red zone. He's not committing too many turnovers. He's playing smart ball. And if you are watching these games and thinking he's the worst quarterback and he's worse than J.J. McCarthy, Russell Wilson, Carson Wentz, and all these quarterbacks that are apparently better than Aaron Rodgers, according to Pro Football Focus so far, I don't think that you really know football all that much. So true or false? Let me know down there in the comment section. Aaron Rodgers is currently a top 10 quarterback in the NFL right now. Type T if you think that statement is true, or type F if you think that statement is false. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsors today at Prize Picks. While I'm telling you about Prize Picks today, let me know down there in the comment section if Aaron is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL right now. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor today at Prize Picks. And you and I, we both make decisions every single day. But on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Football season is finally here, and you better believe I'll be getting my Prize Picks lineups in all season long. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in. Prize Picks also puts their users first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Prize Picks also offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. A new feature from Prize Picks that I absolutely love is injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks will not count that as a loss. So you guys can take a look here at my Week 5 projection here on Prize Picks. I am taking the more on Justin Herbert passing yards, the more for receiving yards for Quentin Johnston, and the more on receiving yards for Zach Ertz. If you guys want to get a Prize Picks projection in today, you can download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, so now let's shift our focus to another media personality that has certainly not been on the Steelers bandwagon, especially before the season, and that is ESPN's Dan Orlovsky saying stuff like the Denver Broncos were way better than the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are not a legitimate Super Bowl contender. At best, they're a 9 or 10 win team and a one-and-done playoff exit type of squad, and they might still be that. But according to Orlovsky himself, he's been pretty darn impressed with what he saw in Dublin in Week 4 versus the Vikings. This is what he had to say. I felt watching the Steelers tape versus the Vikings that it was Kansas City Chiefs-like. The 6 offensive linemen, the multiple tight ends, the way they run, yards after the catch. It's the number 1 yards after catch offense in the league right now. That's a formula for success for that football team right now. It's different. That is 2025 football in the NFL. I absolutely loved it. It makes me think very differently about this Steelers offense moving forward. And I agree with Dan Orlovsky here that I think the Pittsburgh Steelers have absolutely found their winning formula, not just on the offensive side of the ball, but also on the defensive side of the ball, all right? They were doing a lot of very creative stuff, putting people at the line of scrimmage, kind of threatening blitzes with linebackers and DBs. They were going wide 9 to get TJ Watt and Nick Herbig more advantageous angles to pass rush. They were doing a lot of fun stuff on defense in Week 4. With Deshaun Elliott back in the lineup, I think they feel more comfortable to kind of go to some of their more creative stuff, and we certainly saw that versus the Minnesota Vikings. I thought Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin's defensive game plan looked more like a Brian Flores defense than Brian Flores' defense looked in this football game. So I think they did a really good job on defense, but then what Dan is referring to on the offensive side of the ball, the jumbo formations, right? The play action game, they were getting the run game going. all the things that we saw from them, the short passes leading to big gains, like that 80-yard touchdown to DK Metcalf, all right? Like, they are really doing a good job playing a modern style of offense, or at least they did in Week 4 versus the Minnesota Vikings, and I think that's going to continue as the season goes on. But not every media personality is buying the Steelers hype right now. Nick Wright, who has been very adamantly against the Pittsburgh Steelers for multiple years now, he didn't believe in the team last year. He didn't believe in the team this offseason with the way they constructed it. He said that this team needed a full-blown rebuild during the offseason, and he's not a big fan of Aaron Rodgers at this point in his career. But despite some of those things, this is what he had to say about the Pittsburgh Steelers and the hype surrounding this team right now. One of the reasons that I'm not going to abandon the Ravens, even if they lose, is I don't fully trust the Steelers yet. I still think the Steelers could have a 4-game losing streak in them and open the division up. And I do believe that when Lamar is out there, the Ravens have one of the best offenses in the league in the regular season. Now, Nick really didn't want to talk about how good the Steelers looked in Dublin versus the Minnesota Vikings, or at least for most of the game, not including the fourth quarter where they give up multiple touchdowns. But the Steelers definitely look good from a general perspective, definitely as good as they have looked all season. But he really didn't want to talk about that because of what he had to say before this football game last week. This is what he had to say on what this game could mean for Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. This was his prediction. It's on the board against the Vikings defense that with that Pittsburgh offensive line, that this is the last we see of Aaron Rodgers. I think you got to be prepared for that. I'm legitimately worried for Rodgers in this game. I don't think that this offensive line's been good. He's not mobile, and they're gonna heat him up. Well, guess what? Aaron Rodgers went, 18 for 22, had an awesome touchdown pass to DK Metcalf, was orchestrating that offense all day long, was getting the ball out. I think it was the fastest average time to throw of his entire career. So, Nick Wright doesn't want to believe in the Steelers. That's perfectly fine. As far as I'm concerned, the more national media people that doubt this team, the better. And I hope that this team continues to prove Nick Wright wrong in the weeks to come. So do you believe? Let me know down there in the comment section. Are you buying or selling the Steelers hype after their 3-1 start? Type B if you're buying the hype surrounding this team, or type S if you are selling it. For me, I'm definitely taking a cautious approach. I'm cautiously optimistic. They got to keep it up, but I'm really liking some of the things I'm seeing on the Steelers film, and I'm hoping that that continues. Just one more reminder here, guys, before we say goodbye. We are less than 200 subscribers behind Warriors today. So if you like the content that we provide for you guys here on Steelers Talk, you've been watching our channel for a while, but you haven't clicked that subscribe button, it would be a great help to get us to 100,000 subscribers if you would join our family today. So click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers. All right, first segment in the books, Mr. Ponzi. Coming up next, a really fun segment. I'm going to tell you why I think the Pittsburgh Steelers offense is about to change for the better when we get out of this Week 5 bye. I can't wait to share my thoughts on that with you guys. Kind of a mysterious premise to that video. I definitely think that we're going to see something really change in a major way with this Steelers offense once we get to Week 6. So we're going to talk about that here in just a second. Later in the show, we are going to be checking in on the top college quarterbacks that are draft eligible and the guys that Steelers fans should be keeping their eye on in the weeks to come. And then Steelers Talk, our Q&A coming up at the end of today's show. So if you want to get a question on today's show, just another reminder for you guys, use hashtag Steelers in the chat along with your question or super chat to get on today's Q&A. We got a $5 super chat rolling in here from Eric Stamper. My man Eric says, I think we're in a good spot. Aaron has been playing better than we thought so far. We're here for the playoffs as of our performances right now. 100% correct, Eric. I think that, obviously they have to go week by week. We have to stay healthy. We have to maintain, some of the schematic things that we have seen from this football team, especially versus the Minnesota Vikings. You can't have a complete collapse like you had last year. And anybody that watched this team last year knows that is a possibility after a fast start, because this team was 10-3 with Aaron Rodgers. Or not with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields last year, right? So, you need to really be cautious about, fast starts, especially when the Steelers have looked really, frankly, as bad as they have in 2 of their wins. from a general perspective. But I think that they showed a lot of schematic adjustments throughout the first 4 weeks of the year, and I think that they've kind of found their winning formula. So hopefully they can continue that as the season goes on. And if it does, I agree with you, Eric. We're looking pretty good at this point in time. All right, let's get into our second segment on today's show. The Pittsburgh Steelers offense is about to change in a major way once we get back from the bye next week, and I'm going to be breaking down what that change is right now, right here on Steelers Talk. Everything is about to change for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense once they get back from their bye week when this team plays the Cleveland Browns in Week 6 and beyond. And if you're worried about the Pittsburgh Steelers offense at this point, today's video should give you a little bit of hope. Now, there's a new feature here on YouTube. It's called the hype button, okay? And we would love it if you guys would hype up today's video to kind of try it out. So if you love the black and gold, smash that hype button for me right now. All you have to do is go down to the comment section, swipe right of that, and then it's going to show the little hype button there, and all you have to do is click the button to get some hype points for this video. We greatly appreciate your support if you want to help us out here. So make sure you guys scroll right of the comment section and then smash the hype button on today's show. So to this point here, guys, Pittsburgh has not been throwing deep so far this season, okay? That has just been what has been going on to this point. It's been concerning some Steelers fans because they are not, bombing it down the field. In fact, they're way last place. I mean, they're almost a full yard in last place in the NFL in terms of average depth of target in the passing game from Aaron Rodgers, all right? 4.9 yards per average depth of target is ridiculously low. And I think that, some Steelers fans are kind of concerned because it's like if we're just throwing a bunch of screens and we're throwing a bunch of checkdowns and we're not throwing the ball down the field, how is that going to be a sustainable model for offensive success? Well, something that you need to know is that the Steelers are number one in the NFL right now in yards after the catch. DK Metcalf, our new number one receiver here in Pittsburgh, is number one in the league in YAC as well. So right now the Steelers are doing a really good job of getting the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands quickly, but allowing their dynamic playmakers like DK Metcalf, Jaylen Warren, and more getting a great yardage after the catch is made. So I think that is the first thing that I want to talk about here, guys, is that they're doing a really good job getting high percentage looks for Aaron Rodgers, and he's executing the offense at a high level because they're seeing a lot of too high safety structures. And the reason why, that they're not throwing deep right now and they have to rely on yards after the catch is because NFL defenses are playing lots of too high coverages versus Pittsburgh. So if you think about it, like when you have an immobile quarterback and he's got some pretty shaky pass protection that can't hold up forever, and teams are playing lots of too high safety coverages and they're trying to take away the deep pass for Aaron Rodgers, then what are exactly the options for Rodgers to take advantage of, right? Like I said, if you have an immobile quarterback, you got shaky pass pro, and then, you get that too high safety coverage, that's going to open up more opportunities underneath. So Aaron Rodgers, being the smart quarterback that he is just taking what the defense is giving him, right? What's the expectation here? That he's going to throw it into super tight windows down the field when they got a bunch of players playing deep? I think that's a really dumb way to play the position. It's going to lead to more interceptions. And that's obviously not the model that the Pittsburgh Steelers want in terms of the way they want to play offense. And, some encouraging Aaron Rodgers stats that I would point to here, guys, that show that he's actually performing pretty darn well right now is when you look at the efficiency numbers. His yards per attempt, even though he's dead last in average depth of target, he's 32nd among starters right now in that area. We just talked about it, 4.9. Right now he's at 7.3 yards per attempt. All right, so like I said, he's doing a good job finding the right person to get it to in the progression. And he's allowing a dynamic playmaker like DK Metcalf or Jaylen Warren get the yardage after the catch as opposed to before the catch. So he's around league average in terms of yards per attempt, so that's pretty darn good efficiency. Then his passer rating is top 10 in the National Football League right now. He's top 5 in touchdown passes among quarterbacks as well. And then the advanced metrics here, the EPA per play, it's around league average, and then the completion percentage over expectation is 3 points above the expected number given what the Steelers have had so far this season. That ranks in the top 12. So Aaron Rodgers is playing at worst an average level right now, even slightly above average in my opinion, to start this season. It's not like he's playing at an MVP level or he's completely carrying the Steelers offense or anything like that. But these narratives and, PFF grading him as the worst starting quarterback in football because he's not throwing the ball down the field, I don't think it's taking things into the proper context. I think Aaron Rodgers has actually been playing a really smart brand of football. And hey, look at the results. The Steelers are 3-1. But with all this said, I think we're about to see a very major switch for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense when they get back from their bye in Week 6 when they play the Cleveland Browns, and then I think it's going to continue for the rest of the regular season. I'm going to reveal what I think that major change is going to be here in just one moment, but before that, fill in the blank for me right now. Aaron Rodgers is a top blank NFL quarterback right now. Is he top 15? Is he top 10? Is he even top 5? Does he just stink? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section for today's pinned question. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. So in Dublin, the Pittsburgh Steelers debuted their new quote-unquote jumbo 12 and 13 personnel packages. And what that means is you've got your normal 5-man offensive line, right? Broderick Jones, Isaac Seumalo, Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, and Troy Fautano. But what they started doing differently that they weren't doing in the first 3 weeks was they started using jumbo tight ends, all right? And you got Spencer Anderson in there, who's an offensive lineman, playing in as an eligible tight end there on the wing, as well as Darnell Washington, who we all know is an excellent blocker in his own right. So essentially, the Steelers have 7 offensive linemen on the field at one time, and the Minnesota Vikings tried playing the Steelers the way that the other 3 teams tried to play them. 2 high safeties, lighter kind of nickel formations, and the Steelers just plain and simply bullied their ass all morning long, all right? And I think that this is something that the Pittsburgh Steelers are probably going to continue to utilize because plain and simply, guys, even without Jaylen Warren, their number 1 running back, they had by far the most rushing yards and yards per carry compared to their other 3 games, all right? And in the first 3 games, the Steelers couldn't run the football even from 12 and even 13 personnel, despite the fact that the Jets, Seahawks, and Patriots were playing mostly 2 high safety coverages and pre-snap shells when the Steelers actually had a numbers advantage. But the Steelers actually took advantage of that numbers advantage with these jumbo formations, which led to 121 yards from Kenneth Gainwell and other running backs there, which led to a 4.8 yards per carry number on the morning there in Dublin. Now, before, in those first 3 weeks, the Pittsburgh Steelers would mainly use Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth as their tight ends. All right, they would throw Darnell Washington in there at times, but they would never go to those jumbo looks with Spencer Anderson in as a tight end. All right, they would go with Muth and Jonnu, and the thinking was, okay, we're going to have enough size on the field to have an advantage in the run game, but enough receiving ability to be able to beat teams through the air as well. But unfortunately, the problem with that is that Freiermuth and Jonnu just weren't blocking well. They weren't executing their assignments well, and the offensive line wasn't doing a very good job either. And even though teams were playing a lot of 2 high safety shells and the Steelers had not only the size but the numbers advantage, theoretically the run game should have been working, but it wasn't because Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith simply are not great blocking tight ends, and the offensive line wasn't doing a great job getting push either. So the result was defenses in the first 3 weeks would just live in 2 high safety coverages. And this is what the modern NFL defenses will do to teams if they can't run the football. Because, if they can sit in 2 high safety shells and they're not going to get punished in the run game for it, then there's really no reason not to play 2 high safety shells because you can run a bunch of different coverages from 2 high, way more than you can run out of 1 high safety coverages and pre-snap looks. So, for the first 3 weeks, the Steelers couldn't get the run game going. They couldn't really get the pass game going either because these teams would just be taking away the deep passing concepts because of these 2 high safety shells. But last week, they used Spencer Anderson and Darnell Washington way more. They had 17 snaps on offense, most of those coming in run-heavy or at least first and second down situations. and it was a complete revelation. This team all of a sudden had a great run game, and they didn't even have their number one running back in there in Jaylen Warren. All right, I like Kenny Gainwell as a running back, but even he was, the first 3 weeks when he got opportunities, it wasn't like he was lighting it up. So I don't think it's a running back thing. I think it's the fact that this run blocking unit just looks so much better with the extra size, the better run blocking. Spencer Anderson in there to give them that true size advantage in the run blocking scheme. And I think that this has really been a winning formula. I think the Steelers have found the advantage that they have been looking for, because Arthur Smith, as we've discussed ad nauseum on this channel, his offense runs through the run game first. You have to establish that run to bring in the extra safety in the box, and then that opens up the play action passing game, and that opens up the downfield passing game. The first few weeks of the season, the Steelers couldn't play this offense the way that it's really designed to be played, because teams weren't scared enough of the run to sit in one high safety coverages. They just sit in these two high safety shells and take away the deep pass and force the Steelers passing game to be methodical, and it just wasn't very good. But now that the Steelers have actually found some success here with these jumbo formations, I think defenses are going to have to adjust moving forward. Right? This has been shown to be successful on film, and every single one of the Steelers' opponents for the rest of the season are going to have to adjust to Spencer Anderson, a sixth offensive lineman out there, and then Darnell Washington, who's almost like a seventh offensive lineman out there. And the way I think the defenses are going to adjust is they're going to have to play more one and even zero high safety looks. They're going to have to get bigger and play base personnel, but they're also going to have to take these safeties down into the box to be able to give themselves not only a size, but also a numbers advantage versus the run. And when that happens, guys, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to have opportunities to throw the ball down the field. And this is the big change that I alluded to at the beginning of today's show. All right, they haven't been throwing the ball down the field. All right, like we talked about, they're dead last by a wide margin in average depth of target. But now that teams are going to be playing the run against the Steelers more aggressively because of these jumbo formations, that's going to open up a lot of opportunities in the play action game to DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin III when he gets back, Roman Wilson. While Calvin's out, Roman can be a deep threat for this team and actually get some targets now that some opportunities are going to open up for him. All right, so even Scotty Miller, who's an excellent deep threat in his own right. All right, this is going to open up some opportunities, I think, for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. And I think we're going to see that average depth of target number jump sky high now, because I think these defenses are going to have to respect the Steelers' size and run blocking ability with these jumbo formations that they're running out there. But, here's kind of the thing that's the downside to that is playing Spencer Anderson at tight end and Darnell Washington having a higher workload as well means that you're not going to necessarily get your money's worth out of Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth. Right now, both of them are making top 10 tight end money, and the plan, at least to start the season, was for these guys to get starting level snaps. But if you're going to be playing Spencer Anderson and Darnell Washington, somewhere between 15 to 20 snaps in a football game, that's going to lead to less opportunities for Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith. And, that sucks because you're paying them all that money. You want them out there on the field. But at the end of the day, if something's not working and something else is, it doesn't matter how much you're paying the players. You got to make it work. And honestly, this is one of the reasons why I'm personally maybe okay letting go of Pat Freiermuth. I love Pat Freiermuth as a guy. I think he's an awesome ambassador for the team. But, if you're going to be moving forward by going heavy jumbo personnels, and you're going to have Spencer Anderson be pretty much a full-time tight end in this offense, does it really make sense to keep both Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth? I don't know if it really does. Now, if they want to keep him, I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm not saying they have to trade Pat Freiermuth or anything like that. All I'm saying is if they continue down this path and they play these 6 offensive line packages with Darnell Washington in there, there's just not going to be as many opportunities for Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith, and those lack of opportunities are going to mean that they're really not worth the money that the Steelers are paying them this year. So true or false? Let me know down there in the comment section. The Pittsburgh Steelers will finish the year as a top 10 offense. Type T if you think that's true, or type F if you think that's false. I think that, if things go right, they could be knocking on the door, which is crazy to say because of the way the Steelers' offenses have played over the last several years under Mike Tomlin and his various number of offensive coordinators. But it seems like Arthur Smith has found something that works here in Pittsburgh, and I hope they continue to run it. All right, that'll be it for today's edition of Steelers Talk. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of today's show. If you guys want more nerdy, in-depth videos on the Pittsburgh Steelers like we did today, we put them out every single day on this channel, so click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Till next time, guys, here we go, Steelers. Second segment in the books, Mr. Ponzi, and we've got another fun one coming up here. We've got a check-in on some college football quarterbacks. I've got a list of 8 QBs that I think could theoretically be taken in the first round by the Steelers at this point in time. All right, like if the college football season ended today, or if there's an opportunity down the road there, I think that these 8 quarterbacks have a shot to be taken in the first round, and for the Steelers to consider these quarterbacks. All right, and something that's been kind of a theme here, Ponzi, is I don't think that there has been a true lockdown number one type of quarterback that's in this year's draft, but there's a lot of guys that could be taken in the mid to late first round. And I think that is perfect for the Steelers because that's where they're going to be drafting, right? If they have multiple options there in the mid to late first round there to take a future franchise quarterback, I think that can only mean good things for the Steelers. A worst case scenario is like there's 2 really, really good guys and then there's a bunch of shit. And then like they don't have an opportunity to come up and get one. But I think the Steelers are going to have plenty of opportunities to get a pretty decent quarterback prospect. If not, even if he's not a blue chip guy, I still think that there's some good opportunities for the Pittsburgh Steelers next spring.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel like, this quarterback class has been a little bit underwhelming. And I think that, regarding a lot of the overall, I thought this class was going to be top 10. I thought we were going to have a really good stock up in your draft picks this class. But, I mean, really the best quarterback has really been, man. You could argue Dante Moore's up there. I think you need to see a little bit more. I mean, Mendoza's probably my number one. I'm really high on him, but then again, he is very RPO heavy. So you don't really get a full gauge on him. But he has the athleticism, or he has the attributes of a quarterback, but I don't know. Even then, do I feel comfortable picking him number 1 overall?
Yeah, exactly. Kermit, I did see you. I do see your comment there. Yes, your jersey raffle win has been processed. All right, so you are going to be getting your jersey here soon. Shout out to you, Kermit. You are a real one. We'll make sure to get you your jersey as soon as it is possible. So thank you for asking so that we could answer that question. We got a $2 super chat there from Bernard. It says ESPN and PFF and Nick Wright's hate around A-Rod's politics. Maybe they do.
Yeah.
I know Nick doesn't love Aaron's antics in the media, but to be fair, there's a lot of Steelers fans that didn't love those things before we signed him, and now they're all on board, right? So, I think there's a lot of people that don't love Aaron Rodgers' politics, but honestly, on this show, we don't really care about that stuff. We just care about what he brings to the football team, because this is a football show, right?
Yeah.
It's not a politics show, so I'm not even going to comment on Rodgers' politics at all. I've advocated for the Steelers to sign him, really going back to when we haven't, when people are saying we should sign Justin Fields back. I mean, how much of a disaster would that have been if we would have brought Justin Fields back? I mean, goodness gracious, the Jets are 0-4. We're sitting at 3-1 with Aaron Rodgers. Looks like Sperry was right on that one, Ponzi.
The best game that Fields has played was against the Steelers, and ever since then, it's been really downhill.
Yeah, it really has. And honestly, the Steelers' defense was just fucking dog shit in that first game, man. I don't even know what to think. Did we get another one? Yeah, yep. Another one from Bernard. It says A-Rod has 70 yards plus. A-Rod has 70 yards plus career touchdown passes.
I think he means.
Does he have? I have no idea what this is.
70? I don't think he has 70-yard career passes, does he?
I don't know. I don't know, Bernardo. Maybe send in another one to clarify that. $5 from Black Wolf says A-Rod's arm looks so strong, and his slight movement in pocket is just enough to be able to extend plays. Playoff win. Hell yeah, Rodgers top 15. I would say right now, you could certainly make an argument he's top 15.
Yeah.
I don't think he's like a star right now. I don't think he's playing like someone that's carrying this offense, but he's playing smart. And he's playing like a game manager. And that is what I said all along, all throughout this process. I said, we need a high-functioning game manager. Somebody that can throw accurately, somebody that can hit somebody in stride, somebody that knows where to go with the football, somebody that can get it off quickly. I mean, this offseason, like I had people talking to me on Twitter about how we had to keep Justin Fields because the O-line is so bad that we need someone that can run to get away from sacks. But what people don't realize is Justin Fields has been one of the most sacked quarterbacks in football because he holds on to the ball forever. All right? You ask any offensive lineman, would you rather have a quarterback that's fast or a quarterback that gets the ball out fast? And they're going to tell you the guy that gets the ball out fast every fucking time.
Yep.
All right? There's a reason why Tom Brady was never sacked in his career. It's because he always got it out immediately. Drew Brees was the same way. Peyton Manning was the same way. Aaron Rodgers has been the same way. All right? You don't necessarily need to be like this crazy, athletic, mobile type of quarterback when you can get the ball out fast and read defenses as quickly as Aaron Rodgers can. I mean, he's one of, if not the smartest quarterback to ever play the game of football. All right, so like I think what they've been doing has been awesome. Get the ball out of Rodgers' hands, get the ball in the hands of a playmaker in space, and let those people make a guy miss and run with the football. I think it's been really, really good. And when those opportunities open up, Ponzi, for deeper shots, when they play more one high safety and more zero high safety stuff against the Steelers to stop the run, that's going to open up the play action game down the field. And guys like Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin III, DK Metcalf, you're going to see more downfield receptions from the Steelers. And that's going to lead to this team being more balanced. And it's going to be a really good setup offensively here in Pittsburgh, in my opinion. So even though Rodgers in a vacuum maybe isn't like a top 5 guy, like he's still a good starting quarterback, and that's all what this team has needed over the last few years. All right, that's all this team has needed to be able to get to a point where they can win playoff games. And if he can stay healthy, and if TJ can stay healthy, and if this team in general can stay relatively healthy as the season goes on, this team should put themselves in a position to win a playoff football game this year, in my opinion. $2 from Bernard says A-Rod got 23.
There we go.
There it is. I think that is an all-time record, is it not? Or is it tied for first? I think it's at least tied for first.
Let's see, all-time 70-yard passes, or is it TD passes? TD passes, NFL.
Hey, we got a $20 super chat from my man Rad Doctor. One of the best profile picks in the game, coming in with a $20 super chat. We appreciate you, Rad Doctor. Always watching the show, always donating as well. Rad Doctor's one of the real ones. And we got another one coming in here.
Kermit?
From Kermit. Says, great Arthur Smith through his Steelers tenure. Say to this point, a B+.
Can't find the stat.
I don't think it's been an A, but I think, given what he's had to work with, especially on the offensive line, I think that he has done everything in his power to be able to make this group the best it can possibly be. They haven't really had a run game. And, I would say he's not an A because some of the things schematically have been his fault. Especially with the run game, I think that this team is more built to run more gap and power stuff as opposed to zone. And Art is kind of more of a zone guy. And I think a good offensive coordinator will tailor his offensive game plan and the schemes to the players that he has and to their strengths. I don't know if a zone run scheme really fits the strengths of this offensive line, if I'm being completely honest. I think, they ran more gap and power stuff against the Vikings, Ponzi, and it was awesome. Like, that was the best stuff that they ran all day, is when they pulled a lineman and they let him lead block through a hole, and it looked awesome. It was great. And they just didn't do that for the first 3 weeks.
And I really think, we kind of pointed that out in your last segment. Getting that bigness on the field within Darnell Washington, and then, obviously who was it? Who was in the? It was Spencer Anderson. Yeah, and getting them in and getting that bigness on the field and power football. I mean, I think that's genius adjustment from Arthur Smith. I really think that's an adjustment that could win you more football games down the stretch and really bull your way into opposing teams' defenses.
Well, the thing with modern NFL defenses is they've adjusted to the pass-heavy stuff of the 2010s and early 2020s. By going with lots of two high safety stuff. And, there's lots of benefits to being in two high safeties, right? You can rotate down. You have the leverage advantage. You can take away the deep opportunities down the field more consistently. There's a lot of advantages to having two high safeties versus just one or zero. in terms of limiting, the downfield passes. But with 6 offensive linemen on there, and with another one that could be an offensive lineman in Darnell Washington, it just gives the Steelers the advantage in the run game that they've been seeking. That's the advantage that they thought they were going to get with having Jonnu and Pat out there with starting level reps, but it just wasn't working the first 3 weeks. So they made an adjustment. All I hear is that the Steelers and Mike Tomlin don't make any adjustments. They made this one, and it was absolutely brilliant. And I think we've seen this from the Chiefs. We've seen this from teams like the 49ers. They're going with more 6 offensive lineman sets to counter some of these too high safety defenses that we're seeing in this league because a lot of teams play nickel. Some teams base out of nickel, so if you get more size on the field, you can really bully the fuck out of a football team, and that's what we saw in Dublin last week where the Vikings just couldn't stop the Steelers' run game. It was absolutely beautiful to see. $5 from Justin Yankuski. Says, Ern says Steelers' number 1 trade priority is MLB. How? I'm confused on the question, Justin.
Ern says maybe that's like an insider or someone like that. ESPN maybe?
Steelers' number 1 trade. Middle linebacker, I think is what he said. I thought he was talking about Major League Baseball. What is baseball?
I thought that was the confusing part for me.
I don't know, man. I don't know who Ern is, but
I think it's ESPN.
Oh, ESPN. Well, ESPN doesn't know shit. All right, they really don't. They have generalized coverage. They're not in depth on any specific teams. And like if they just took a look at the depth chart for the Pittsburgh Steelers, you've got Patrick Queen, who's playing like a borderline All-Pro right now. Then you've got Peyton Wilson, who has been shaky, but he still has a lot of promise. Then you've got Cole Holcomb, a multi-year starter that apparently ESPN has just forgot about because he didn't play last year. And then you've got Jawan Bentley, who's in the fold now. So even if there's an injury, you can still have a really good 3-man rotation of inside linebackers. So ESPN doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about, Justin. Inside linebackers not a need for the Steelers right now. $5 from Chad says, A.J. Brown a realistic trade target for Pittsburgh? No, he's not, Chad, unfortunately. I would love A.J. Brown to be here, but number 1, it doesn't look like the Eagles are going to come to the table. A.J. talked about yesterday how he takes full accountability. He said it was a mistake, yada, yada, yada. So unless he just straight up demands a trade out of Philly, I don't think he gets traded, period. And after they've kind of seemingly made up here and he's taken accountability, I don't see that happening now, especially because the team is winning football games. And then even if he does demand a trade out of Philly, I don't think the Steelers would be the team to get him because the Steelers want to keep their first-round pick for next year, and that would be at least the price tag to get him. He's a top 5 receiver in the game right now. He's under contract for a number of seasons. It might even take 2 first-round draft picks to get A.J. Brown. That's how good of a player he is. So Steelers, I think, are more in the market for like maybe a 3rd-round pick, maybe like a 4th or a 5th in a player. That's kind of the wide receiver kind of range in terms of the price tag that they're looking for. I don't think they're in the market for trading multiple first-round picks for receivers right now. So we still got, speaking of the draft here, we do have a very fun draft segment coming up here. I got 8 quarterbacks that I think could feasibly be taken by the Pittsburgh Steelers in the NFL draft next year in the first round. So I'm really excited to share this list with you guys, maybe some names that you maybe haven't considered before. There is a quarterback in the SEC that has blown me away on film to start this season. I can't wait to share with you guys here in just a moment. So without further ado, let's get into it. Today on Steelers Talk, I'm going to be breaking down 8 college quarterbacks that are draft eligible that I could see the Pittsburgh Steelers taking in round 1 of next year's NFL draft. Now, make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. If you want more 2026 QB draft target videos like the one we're doing today. If you guys want this type of content, you want to be kept up to date on which college quarterbacks are playing well, which ones maybe aren't doing so well, and kind of go over which options the Steelers will have at their disposal next spring. Make sure you click that thumbs up icon for college football analysis here on Steelers Talk. So just in general, guys, before we get into the list, I want to kind of share my take on this year's class. And to me, there hasn't been like a slam dunk number one overall pick type of guy at this point. Maybe that guy will emerge, but to this point, through the first 5 weeks of college football, that hasn't happened. But there's a lot of quarterbacks that could go in round one. And I think that that's some really good news for the Pittsburgh Steelers and their fans, guys, because the Steelers, in my opinion, are not going to be drafting high to take, like a Jaden Daniels level quarterback or a Caleb Williams type of guy in the top 5 of the NFL draft. I think they're going to be somewhere sitting in the late teens or somewhere in the 20s, hopefully in the 30s, but we won't get ahead of ourselves here, guys. And if there's a lot of QBs in this class, like maybe 3-4 guys that could go anywhere between 16 and 32, that's going to be good for the Steelers because they're going to have options and they're going to be able to trade up for somebody if there's somebody in particular that they really like. So I do think the Steelers will have options to go out and get a quarterback next year's NFL draft. Today we're going to be talking about 8 quarterbacks that could be the draft pick in round 1 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we'll start here with kind of the guy that is still kind of being projected as the first quarterback off the board in most mock drafts, redshirt junior out of South Carolina, Lenora Sellers, all right? And a CBS mock draft just came out this week having him as the number 1 pick to the New Orleans Saints. And listen, man, Sellers hasn't had a terrific start to the season. He just hasn't. He still has issues with accuracy at times. He still has trouble getting through reads at times. He's just inconsistent. And we have seen this kind of mold of quarterback, Trey Lance, Anthony Richardson fail at the NFL level really recently, but we've also seen some of these kind of super physically gifted but raw quarterback prospects develop into superstars like Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. Some of the best quarterbacks in the league came into the league as viewed as super raw prospects that ended up developing. So you just can't teach Sellers his tools, and that's what makes him a first-round draft prospect, guys. He's probably better suited to go to a team that can develop him, sit for maybe a year, where he can learn from a veteran quarterback, and he can kind of develop in that way before he takes the reins. But his ability to run with the football, his contact balance as a quarterback is special. His big play-making ability and his pocket presence can really lead to some really incredible plays. And, of course, he's got the arm strength as well. So he's got the size, he's got the rushing ability, he's got the arm strength, he's got some of the things you can't teach, like playmaking instincts and pocket presence. So he's got the makeup of a future superstar quarterback that can really elevate and carry an NFL franchise for a decade plus. So that is what's going to make him somebody that's very intriguing at the top of mock drafts heading into next year's draft. But in order for Pittsburgh to have a shot at him, plain and simply, guys, because of the level of talent he brings to the table, Sellers really has to underperform. And he has to be viewed as a very raw quarterback prospect for the Steelers to have even a chance to get their mitts on him, all right? If Sellers has a good season this year, he's going to be a bona fide top 5 pick, plain and simply, okay? So for him to fall into the teens and even into the low 20s, he's going to have to not play too well. And good for Steelers fans, he really hasn't to start this season, but that's going to have to continue. And then also, he's going to have to come out. He can still go back for another year because he's a redshirt junior. So there's a lot of things that need to go right for the Steelers to have a shot at Sellers, but he is exactly Mike Tomlin's type, all right? We know Mike Tomlin loves these big, fast, physically gifted type of dudes. And also, I think Pittsburgh would be like a perfect situation for Sellers. That is, if Aaron Rodgers decides to come back for another season. Rodgers has continuously hinted after on Pat McAfee's show saying that this would probably be his final year. Ever since he got to Latrobe in training camp, he has been laying down hint after hint that he could be coming back for another season here in Pittsburgh. And listen, man, if the Steelers make the playoffs and they're a good football team and they'd come up like just short of the Super Bowl, then I think that Rodgers could very well come back and play with Cam Hayward for one more season. If that's the case, bringing in a guy like Sellers, who's super physically gifted but probably needs a year to sit behind a veteran, what other mentor could you ask for a young quarterback than one of the smartest quarterbacks in NFL history? And by the way, Jordan Love, Will Howard, bunch of young quarterbacks, Zach Wilson, that have been tutored under Aaron Rodgers' mentorship, just rave about how he is as a leader, how he is as a mentor. He's always there to help the younger quarterback. So I can't think of a better mentor for the future franchise quarterback of this team than Aaron Rodgers. And if you can somehow get Lenore Sellers here to Pittsburgh for a year to learn from him, I think that's the best possible situation for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So predict it for me down there in the comment section. Who will be the first quarterback taken in this year's class? Will it be Lenore Sellers? Will it be somebody else? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section for today's pinned question. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds, and when that happens, take advantage of that time. But let me know who the first quarterback off the board is going to be next spring. Then we get to the next guy that's usually up next in these mock drafts and in these big boards right now, and it's Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza. Like Sellers, he is a redshirt junior, so he could go back to school if he wants, but right now he is getting a lot of buzz, a lot of people even saying he is QB1 in this year's class. And listen, man, the arm talent is certainly there with Mendoza. Now, it's not the most elastic arm in the world, and what I mean by that is like the side arms and all these different types of crazy arm angles. He's more of a traditional passer, a little bit stiffer as a passer, but he can freaking spin it, man. The rotations that he can put on the football, the velocity that he can throw with, the touch that he can throw to the middle of the field. He can fit it into tight windows, and he's put that on full display so far this year with the Hoosiers. And honestly, he reminds me a lot of Jared Goff, all right? Goff is not the most mobile guy in the world. He's more of a true pocket passer. That's how I view Mendoza. A little bit stiffer, but has a rocket of an arm, can make incredible throws to every level of the field, over the middle, all these different things. Mendoza reminds me a lot of Goff. And hey, if you get a Jared Goff out of Fernando Mendoza, and you get the production that Jared Goff has put up specifically over the last several years in Detroit, not to mention what he did in his early years with Sean McVay in L.A., I think that's a pretty good investment with a first-round pick. And now I do have two concerns with Mendoza. The first one is he doesn't have a ton of structure, out-of-structure playmaking ability. Once he's under pressure, he has to leave the pocket. I wouldn't say that is like a huge strength to his game. He's also not like a fantastic rusher of the football. And then also, Indiana runs a really college-y style, RPO-heavy offense. So, they played Illinois, and I think he only had 2 incompletions. Most of his throws in that game were RPOs, all right? So he's really good at reading out that RPO game, but there's not a whole lot of true progression passing in that Indiana offense. And, there's going to be a lot of that once he gets to the NFL. So I don't know exactly how ready he is to take on a pro-style offense, especially going into year one, but he certainly has the arm talent to be a future starting quarterback and a very productive one at that. And because of that, I would take him in round 1. Right now, if the season ended today, I would have a round 1 grade on him. I would gladly take him with the Steelers' first-round draft pick if he's available. He's got a strong arm, so he can play in the AFC North, all those things. And by all accounts, he's a great leader and worker there with the Indiana Hoosiers program. So certainly a name to keep your eye on there. But honestly, if he continues to play as well as he is at Indiana, the Steelers probably won't even have a chance to take him. Then we get to Dante Moore, the redshirt sophomore out of Oregon. He is somebody that is a very, very talented passer, former 5-star quarterback. He's got a very easy release, one of the most easy releases you're ever going to see. He plays with really calm footwork, and that really is the epitome of what he is as a passer. He just brings a lot of poise and calm to the position, and that's exactly what you want. I mean, he goes in to the whiteout at Penn State, maybe the hardest road environment to go into, and he delivers some really crazy great plays out of structure. I love his out of structure playmaking ability. I thought that the Oregon offense honestly didn't call a great game in that football game, and he bailed them out multiple times with sidearm passes and all these different things. And we've seen some really good mental processing stuff and true drop back passing game so far this season there at Oregon. So I'm really intrigued by Dante Moore. He's another guy that could be the first quarterback taken, depending on how his season goes here. He brings the whole package to the table as far as I'm concerned. Then we get to John Mateer, another redshirt junior here from Oklahoma. And this guy has a lot of buzz surrounding him because of the crazy arm strength, and he can throw with a super elastic arm, throwing sidearm passes. In fact, that's how he throws most of his passes. And then not only that, but he can run with the football, man. And he is a dog competitor. You can see it when he takes it for a 20-yard run. He gets up screaming. You love that energy that he brings to the table. I think that he is one of the most fun quarterbacks in the country to watch. This is why he was really at the top of the Heisman leaderboard before he had that thumb injury that's going to be taking him out here for at least another week. But Mateer is super fun to watch. Big arm, really good as a rusher as well. Has some really great flashes of anticipation as well, which is what you want to see from a future quarterback prospect going into the NFL. But he needs more consistency with his accuracy, specifically with overthrows. All right, is a big, big issue with John Mateer. And in the NFL, and really at any level of football, if you're overthrowing a ball thrown over the middle of the field, it's going to go right to a safety, all right? And that's going to be an interception. And that is the last thing that Mike Tomlin wants here in Pittsburgh, right? So he's got to find a way to get a little bit more consistent with his stroke. But if he can do that and he can put together a really good end to his college season here, with Boomer Sooner, he's absolutely going to be a first-round pick, and he might even be in consideration for the Pittsburgh Steelers next spring. So make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon. We're halfway through our list today, but if you're enjoying today's video, you like this in-depth coverage for the Pittsburgh Steelers every single day, make sure you click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. All right, so now let's get to Sam Leavitt, the redshirt junior out of Arizona State, and he is somebody that has a lot of talent. He's got a very elastic arm. He can throw with a bunch of different arm angles. He's got a very quick release. He's got really great pocket presence and playmaking instincts out of structure. And then, he can run with the football too, man. He can juke. He can make some moves and make guys miss in space. And, I really loved his performance versus TCU this past week, where he is just an absolute dog competitor. It's a close football game, and he found a way to win the game. Of course, it helps when you have Jordan Tyson, maybe the best receiver in college football right now, playing for the Arizona Sun Devils, and to throw it up to him. He's got a really good deep ball as well, guys, with a lot of touch on it. I really like Sam Leavitt's skill set, and he has all the tools to be a first-rounder. He's got a fiery competitive edge. He's got a really strong arm that he can throw with a bunch of different arm angles. He's got really great pocket presence to be really great out of structure playmaker, and he can run with the football. But kind of like John Mateer, he needs more consistency. All right, like sometimes he can just make some of the most boneheaded decisions that you'll ever see with the football, and sometimes the accuracy isn't always there, and sometimes the footwork and the base is not always consistent, and he'll bounce in the pocket and be really toesy. He just needs to get a little bit more of that consistency. And he might be another guy that if he comes out this year, he could use a year on the bench to learn from a veteran and kind of hone his skill set for an NFL offense. But there's certainly a lot of talent there. And by the way, the Pittsburgh Steelers have been giving Sam Leavitt a lot of scouting attention. I think they've gone to every single one of Arizona State's games this year. They've attended Arizona State practices. Like, they are doing their homework on this quarterback class, and it seems like they're really honing in on Sam Leavitt in particular. But then somebody that has really surprised me this year, guys, and might be kind of the out-of-nowhere quarterback that goes in round one this season is Ty Simpson from Alabama. Now, Simpson's another guy that could return for another year, but he might be the most pro-ready quarterback playing in college football right now. They're playing a very pro-style offense with lots of progression reads, full-field reads there at Alabama, and you just don't see quarterbacks that, put the kind of production that he's been putting up while running a full field progression style offense. I mean, he is completing nearly 70% of his passes, and Ryan Williams, if I'm not mistaken, he's right at the top of of college football right now in drop passes. Against Georgia, he had 5 drop passes in that football game, and he was still able to get 3 total touchdowns against the Bulldogs on the road. He's having over 280 yards passing per game. He has 11 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. He's added 2 touchdowns on the ground, and he has a passer rating of 173.1. And listen, man, like when you look at the footwork, when you look at the mental processing ability to go full field progression reads in college, all right, the pocket presence to step up, throw the ball over the middle of the field with anticipation. There's nobody in college football right now playing a pro-style offense at the level that Ty Simpson is right now at Alabama. And listen, man, if Arch Manning was playing the way that Ty Simpson's playing right now, he'd be the bona fide number 1 pick, and he'd probably be the Heisman favorite. All right, and the same thing goes for the guys that were expected to be, first-round picks heading into the year. Drew Aller, Garrett Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik. If any of these guys were putting up the stat line that Ty Simpson's putting out right now in the film that Ty Simpson is putting out there, if any of those guys were playing as well as Ty Simpson is right now, they would be the bona fide favorite to go number 1 in the draft this year. But because Ty Simpson, hasn't played college football, this is his first year starting, He's kind of seen as somebody that's not a good quarterback for some reason. A lot of people don't have him in the first round of mock drafts. And I think as the season goes on and Ty Simpson continues to play well, I don't think there's going to be any denying him, man. I think that he could win the Heisman this year if he continues this. I think that he could be maybe even the first quarterback taken because he's a former 5-star athlete. He's got a really good arm. I think that he, out of all these quarterbacks today that we're going to be talking about, he might be the number one guy on my list. Where if I asked a college quarterback to play in the NFL right now, I think Ty Simpson is probably my choice. So take your shot down there in the comment section. Which quarterback is going to be coming out of nowhere to be taken in round 1 this year? For me, I think it's Ty Simpson. He was not even on most people's radar to start this season, and you can make an argument he's having the best season out of any college football quarterback to start the year. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. And now, like I said, guys, if Pittsburgh needs a day 1 starter, I think Simpson would probably be my guy there. I think that, the Steelers could certainly use somebody, especially if Aaron Rodgers retires. They're going to have a good football team. So they're going to want somebody that can go in there, operate under center and all these different things. And there might not be an SEC quarterback that plays more under center football than Ty Simpson, and he does it at a super high level. So, this is certainly somebody that I'm keeping my eye on. But then to finish out our list here, 2 guys that have, in my opinion, underperformed this year. We'll start with Garrett Nussmeier, who is a redshirt senior, so he's a bit older. He was another guy that waited a long time for his turn, had a really good season last year at LSU, decides to come back for another season, and it just hasn't been as good as last year, just plain and simply. I think, he definitely sees the game like a pro quarterback. He can go through full field progression reads. He can diagnose a defense pre-snap pretty consistently, and he uses the Cognize VR technology that Jaden Daniels uses, and he used back at LSU and what helped him transform his football journey. So he's certainly somebody that if you draft him, you can get that new school technology here in Pittsburgh, and that can benefit not just him, but any other quarterbacks that come through the program here with the Steelers moving forward. But Nussmeier does predetermine a lot of his throws based on the pre-snap look. He will kind of predetermine where he's throwing it, which leads to a lot of really bad decisions. And, the post-snap processor needs some work, in my opinion, and then he's lost some accuracy, particularly to the deep portion of the field. And obviously in this Steelers offense, they want to be able to throw the ball down the field off of play action. That's a big part of the scheme here, with the run game hopefully developing into what we hope it is. So if you're looking for somebody to fit inside an Arthur Smith offense in particular, he's going to have to get a lot better throwing the ball down the field. Another guy here that I still think is going to be in the first round discussion. He needs to get a lot better, though, is Drew Aller. Right now, I think if the season ended today, he would not be a first-round pick. I think he'd be more like a Will Levis type of guy or a Malik Willis type of guy where he's got physical talent, but I think he'd probably go on day 2. And, we just have to acknowledge reality when it comes to Drew Aller. It just hasn't been that great, especially against good competition. He had a really good fourth quarter against Oregon. He showed some moxie there, but then he throws an interception in overtime. And, it just doesn't seem like he's got that, ability in him, or at least not to this point in his college career, to win big games. And, the Steelers want to be in a lot of big games. You want somebody that can go out there and play his best when the game is on the line, kind of like Dante Moore did in that whiteout game. But, with Drew Aller, it's definitely still the case that he's got the arm talent. He's got the ability to make plays, incredible throws with a super elastic arm. That deep ball that he threw for a touchdown against Oregon was absolutely beautiful. And there's still a lot of season left, all right? At this point last year, people were saying Drew Aller sucks as well. And then by the end of the season, people were like, hey, this guy is actually playing pretty well down the stretch. So, if he can get better and if he can finish his season strong, we saw it with C.J. Stroud, right? C.J. had a very up and down college career, and then he finished it off extremely strong with that performance against the Georgia Bulldogs, and then boom, he has a bunch of arm talent. He was a highly touted prospect, very physically talented guy, has a great combine, all this stuff, and he's a top 2 pick. So, it's still too early to determine where Drew Aller his fate is going to be, but because he is a senior, he is going to be going into the draft this year. So for his sake, I hope he can turn it around in a hurry. So who's your guy? Let me know down there in the comment section. Which quarterback are you hoping that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to draft next spring? Are you a Mendoza guy? Are you a Lenora Sellers guy? Are you like me and think Ty Simpson should be in the first-round conversation right now? Let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section, and that'll be it for today's edition of Steelers Talk. Again, guys, like today's video. If you want to see more 2026 NFL Draft QB videos here on Steelers Talk throughout the college football season, again, make sure you click that subscribe button for that content when it comes out. And until next time, here we go, Steelers. All right, so coming up next, we've got the Steelers Talk mailbag. I'm going to be taking your questions. If you have any questions on the black and gold, Ponzi, how are we doing on questions at this point in time? He says we're all good. Okay, so we'll give him a minute, all right? Give him a minute to get their questions in. Again, you can get your questions in for free using hashtag Steelers, but the only way to guarantee your question gets on the show today is if you super chat down there in the live chat room. All right, we got over 206 people watching live right now. We got 135 people that have liked the show, so thank you to all the real ones that have clicked that thumbs up icon. And I think we got a couple super chats, did we not? All right, so let's get to these super chats here before we get into the mailbag. But again, guys, we're going to go through these super chats, and then we'll go into the mailbag. So it's not too late. Get your question in. Hashtag Steelers to get on the show. Joseph with a 5, my man Joe, says, which top prospect college QB would you like to join the Steelers? Honestly, guys, I'm cool with a lot of different guys at this point. Like if they drafted Lenora Sellers, if Rodgers comes back, that would be awesome. I really like that setup. I also like Fernando Mendoza. I think that he could fit inside this offense. It might be a little shaky to start because he doesn't really play an under center style of game in college, but I'm sure that he could learn within the first 2 years of his career. Then Dante Moore, another guy that plays a lot of shotgun, but is very poised and is the type of person, very poised individual that you want leading your franchise. Ty Simpson has been playing actually quite a bit of under center at Alabama this year, and he's looked really good. Playing in a very pro-style offense with full field progression reads. I've been super impressed by Ty Simpson. So if he continues, he's going to have to force his way into the first-round conversation. It seems like people don't want to do that at this point because he wasn't expected to be there. But, I don't know if the film doesn't lie, man. Ty Simpson can fucking play. He can. He really can. And then Drew Aller, if he gets better as the season goes on, we'll see on him. I think there's a lot of guys, Joseph, that I would be okay with. Right now, I would be pretty hesitant towards Garrett Nussmeier and Drew Aller because they haven't played fantastic to start this season. But, anyone between Lenora Sellers, Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore, John Mateer, Ty Simpson, and I'm missing someone, Ponzi. Who am I missing here? Who am I missing from my list here? Sam Levitt is the one that I'm missing right there. Because, Sam, he needs a little, I would say Mateer, Sellers, and Levitt need a little bit of love around the edges there. But they've got some moxie. They've got a lot of talent. And really, talent is the key. In the NFL because, you're in a division with Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. You got to compete with those guys. And, the best way to consistently compete with those guys is having a quarterback of their stature. So, that's kind of where my thoughts are, Joseph. We got $10 from Alex L. Says, happy Thursday, everyone. Shout out to Alex. He's always a real one, man. Always putting in at least a little something in the chat room. So shout out to Alex. Is that the last one that we got there? We got one more? Great. Black Wolf with another 5 says, I don't think the zone run scheme is our O-line's strength. Also, people in chat saying Will Howard is better than any QB coming out. Listen, man, I love Will Howard as a kid and, as a guy, he works hard. He's the type of guy that you really root for. But, I hate to break it to people. There is a reason why he went in the 6th round. Maybe that was a little bit of a steal, but at best he was viewed as a 4th round prospect. And I know John Gruden compared him to Josh Allen, and some Steelers fans took that to mean that he's Josh Allen. He's not Josh Allen, all right? He doesn't have the pocket presence. He doesn't have the playmaking instincts. He's got a pretty decent arm, and he's got a pretty decent deep ball. And he played his best football down the stretch last year, which is a good sign because he can elevate his play in big moments. But, 6-round picks, they need to get pretty lucky to get a shot. And then even if Howard gets a shot to play, he's going to have to play very well immediately to hold off the Steelers drafting a quarterback next spring, at least in my opinion. Maybe it's a possibility that Rodgers comes back next year and Rodgers is like, just keep Will Howard as the backup. And maybe that's what they do. Maybe they give Will Howard another year to sit behind Rodgers and they do that strategy. But I think there's going to be somewhere between 4 to anywhere up to 6 quarterbacks that could be taken in round 1 next year. And, the draft is in Pittsburgh next year. All these different things just contribute to the idea that they're going to take their quarterback of the future next year. So, it's nothing against Will Howard. It's just I think his ceiling is something of the like of a Derek Carr, where, Derek Carr, nothing wrong with him. He was a good quarterback for a lot of years. He made a lot of money, but he was limited, right? He didn't have the best pocket presence, right? He threw a lot of hospital balls. He didn't play his best in big moments. And, when I watch Will Howard play, I see a lot of similarities with Derek Carr. So it's are we okay having that as our starting quarterback if he hits his high-end ceiling? Or would we rather more swing higher and, try and get a true superstar at the position, right? So I like Will Howard as a guy. If they decide to roll with him, I'll be rooting for him like hell. And I'm rooting for him like hell right now. He's a great kid, like I keep saying. But I do think the Steelers will take a quarterback next spring. And I think that's the way it's going to go. All right, so let's get into the mailbag right now, guys. Let's finish up this live show with some good questions. Can't wait to see what kind of questions you guys got for me here on this Thursday edition of the Steelers Talk live show. So without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome into the Steelers Talk mailbag here for the bye week, week 5 for the black and gold. I'm going to be answering your questions on this football team here after a 3-1 start and, as we look forward to the Cleveland Browns game in week 6. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already to join the most interactive Steelers fan community anywhere here on the YouTube platform. We go live twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. At 5 p.m. Eastern Time. We film our mailbags during the Thursday live show, and then we go live for every single Steelers game as well, where we interact with the crowd. We react to the game together. We have almost 100,000 subscribers already on this channel, guys. So if you want to join the family, join the largest community of Steelers fans anywhere here on YouTube, click that subscribe button right now, and let's get into your questions. Starting with Electric Divergent, says, do you think the new idea on O-line is sustainable? Yes, I do. I know that Mark Caboli and some others have said, it was just a game plan specific thing for Minnesota. I really hope that's not the case because plain and simply, guys, for this Arthur Smith offense to work, you got to get defenses to respect the run. And the first 3 weeks, when they weren't doing the jumbo formations, teams were not respecting the run game. When they had Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth getting legitimate starting snaps, neither of those guys were blocking at a good enough level to sustain a good run game. And we saw the results in the first 3 weeks. The run game was terrible when those two guys got a lion's share of the snaps at tight end. But then they make that shift where you got Spencer Anderson as a kind of elephant tight end, and then you got Darnell Washington, who's almost as big as an offensive lineman himself. And all of a sudden, defenses are now going to have to deal with 7 players above 280 pounds that can run block. Spencer Anderson can move as well. Same thing with Darnell. That is going to be something that can get defenses to suck up their safeties, pause, to single high and zero high looks to try and stop the run. And that's the way you can get Aaron Rodgers in this passing game to throw the ball downfield more. Big reason why Aaron Rodgers and this team is not throwing the ball down the field is because teams are just living in too high safety shells. All right, and that's what we've been seeing the first 4 weeks of the season. And, we saw on film in that Week 4 game, and the rest of the NFL saw in that Week 4 film, can't do that shit anymore with this 7 offensive line formation that the Steelers have brought out. So if the Steelers are smart, they're going to keep doing that to be able to, earn that respect in the run game from other teams, which is going to open up the play action game, which is going to open up deep passing opportunities. So I do think it's sustainable, electric, divergent, and I think that it can only mean good things for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense moving forward. I think it's their winning formula. Then we get to Kevin Reed, says, I think Roman Wilson could break out as wide receiver 2 while Calvin is out. What do you think? Well, I'll tell you this, Kevin. I think the opportunities to get some deep shots to Roman Wilson will be there over the next few weeks, all right? Because like I said with our first question here, I think defenses are going to be playing the run a little bit more aggressively against the Steelers, especially when they go to those jumbo formations, which is going to open up some opportunities for DK Metcalf and then whoever the deep threat is on the other side of DK. Could be Roman, could be Scotty, we'll see. But there's going to be opportunities, one-on-one coverage down the field off of play action in those jumbo looks that I think Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers are going to take advantage of here. So, I think Roman Wilson, I think he's got the skill set. I always have. I think he's got speed. He's got great acceleration. He's got good hands. He's a good run blocker. There's a reason why this team took him in round 3, but there's also a reason why he hasn't played a whole lot to this point in his Steelers tenure, and it's probably because they don't trust him all that much. So we'll see what happens, Kevin, but I'm definitely rooting for Roman Wilson. So let me know what you think down there in the comment section. Your confidence level in Roman Wilson at this point in his NFL journey. Scale it from 1, meaning no confidence at all, he's terrible, to 10, meaning he's going to break out, he's going to be awesome. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. For today's pinned question, YouTube's going to throw an ad break here in just a couple of seconds, and when that happens, take advantage of that time. But give me a number between 1 and 10. Got one from Eric Gender here, says, we are number 1 in the division, go Steelers, but Jack, how you feel about our chances as a top 3 seed in the conference? I'm looking, we can arguably be the number 1 in the conference by the end of the season. I think most people expect the Buffalo Bills to be the number 1 team in the AFC by the end of the season, but the AFC, I don't think it's being dominated by the top quarterbacks the way that people kind of expect going into every single season. Like every year, people expect Lamar, Mahomes, Allen, and Burrow to dominate the division, to make the playoffs, dominate, do all these different things. But Lamar's team is 1-3, and Lamar's injured. Burrow is out for multiple months. Mahomes' team is 2-2, and then the Bills, they're rolling right now. They got a 99.9% chance of making the playoffs, and honestly, they're the favorites to be the number 1. But, I think that the Steelers can certainly compete with anybody in the AFC right now, all right? I think some really important litmus tests will be when this team plays the Colts, when they play the Bills, when they play the Chargers later on down the schedule here. But certainly, I think that this team, especially if they can keep up the run game, especially if they can open up the deep passing game a little bit more, if they can maintain the yards after catch stuff in the short game, if they can get the defense and the pass rush in particular to continue to be as successful as they've been, they could be one of the best teams in the National Football League this year. Full stop. Then we got one from Justin, $5. It says, what role do you think Juwan Bentley will play in the rotation after the bye? It's a good question, Justin. I don't know if I have a real great answer for you. Because we just don't know, right? You've got a pretty decent trio of linebackers right now. You got Patrick Queen, you got Peyton Wilson, you got Cole Holcomb, and they brought in Bentley because, Peyton Wilson didn't have a great start to the season. They weren't 100% sure Cole Holcomb was going to be able to step up into that quote-unquote thumper role that Landon Roberts played for this defense last year. But Bentley is a lot like Landon Roberts. So if they want to go back to that kind of early down, put a thumper out there, then put the athletic Peyton Wilson out there on later downs, they could certainly do that. But then versus the Vikings in week 4, Wilson had a full 3-down workload. So they might be back to just doing that full time. So I'm not exactly sure where Bentley fits inside the rotation at this point, but I'm sure they'll find some sort of role for him to fill. And then, hey, if there's an injury, you still got a really good rotation to hang your hat on. Then we got one from Joseph, says, which top prospect college quarterback would you like to join the Steelers? I think there's a good crew of guys right now that I would at least be open to at this point. I think a fantastic setup would be getting somebody that might be a little bit rough around the edges, might need a little bit of time to sit behind a veteran. Hopefully Aaron Rodgers maybe comes back for another year. That would be nice so that you could have a guy just sit behind him for a year, someone like a Lenore Sellers, somebody like maybe a Sam Levitt or a John Mateer, somebody that maybe isn't all the way there yet, but can learn for a year behind Aaron Rodgers. I think would be phenomenal. a great setup, but, those guys have to come out. Those guys can all go back to school. So it's going to depend on which quarterbacks come out, but there's certainly a number of guys that I would consider. And if you're looking for somebody that can start day one, Fernando Mendoza would probably, I think he might not be great right away, but I think he could be serviceable right away. Dante Moore out of Oregon has shown some really nice things with the Ducks so far, and then even Ty Simpson from Alabama. I think he might be the most impressive college quarterback in the country to start this season. He had a great performance against Georgia. He's had a lot of drops, and he's still completing around 70% of his passes in a pro-style system that asks him to go full-field progression reads. He's a 5-star athlete with a great arm. I just don't know why, people, I don't understand why Ty Simpson isn't getting talked about more in these conversations. It's probably because Mac Jones and Tua and Bryce Young, Alabama quarterbacks, haven't been fantastic in the league. But listen, man, good film is good film, and I think Ty Simpson can play. Before we get into the rest of our questions here on the Steelers Talk mailbag here, you and I both make decisions every single day. But on the Prize Picks app, which you can download for free today, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Football season is finally here, and you better believe I'll be getting my Prize Picks lineups in all season long. Prize Picks is super simple to play. You just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in. Prize Picks also puts their users first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Prize Picks also offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. And a new feature from Prize Picks that I absolutely love is injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks will not count that as a loss. So for week 5 here, I'm taking the more on passing yards for Justin Herbert, the more on receiving yards for Quentin Johnston, and the more on receiving yards for Zach Ertz. You guys can download the Prize Picks app today on your phone for free and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Yinzer Joe says, Jack, do we feel like the defensive tackle position can be upgraded? Benton isn't good there. Maybe sign Wilkinson. Nah, not Wilkinson. Right now, Yinzer Joe, I would say if you want to bring in a defensive tackle, probably someone like even Linval Joseph, who's ancient, but at least he can just stand there in place as a nose tackle. But honestly, Yinzer Joe, I think the Steelers kind of found their winning formula on defense. We talked about their winning formula on offense with those jumbo looks. But something that they did versus Minnesota that I really loved is instead of their normal 5-down fronts that they've been running the first 3 weeks of the season and what Mike Tomlin is kind of known for, they went to a very 4-down front heavy defense versus Minnesota, and they threatened to blitz lots of guys. Jalen Ramsey, Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, Deshaun Elliott. They blitzed Elliott 20 times versus the Vikings. Like, they were really blitz heavy in that football game, and Carson Wentz had no idea who was coming, who was dropping into coverage. That forced Carson to hold on to the football a little bit longer, which led to more sacks. And of course, this pass rush from Pittsburgh can get the job done. So I think Benton is a much better fit inside that 4-down system where he can be more of a gap penetrator, that sort of thing, as opposed to a true nose tackle where he's asked to 2-gap and do those types of things. I don't think that's a good fit for his skill set. But now that they have shifted to that 4-down front style of defense, Benton, I think, has actually looked pretty darn good, and I think he's probably the other starting defensive tackle alongside Cam Hayward at this point. So make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. If you are a real one, really do appreciate your guys' support. And if you guys want more content like today's, make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon. Really does help out the YouTube algorithm. It tells this platform to push this video in front of more Steelers fans like yourself. So if you want a free and easy way to help out our channel and you appreciate the work that we do here, giving you guys multiple Steelers videos a day, make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon right now. Then we got one from Zoop08, says, if the Steelers would trade for a wide receiver, do you see them doing it next week or late this week? I mean, honestly, this is going to be coming out probably on Saturday, maybe Sunday. And, I mean, at this point, if they haven't made a move up receiver, I don't think they're going to, because, like, it makes sense to bring on somebody early on in the week on your bye week so that they have a 2-week window to ramp up. I just don't think at this point it makes a whole lot of sense to add anybody. And I think it speaks to first of all, Calvin Austin's injury is probably not that serious. And then 2, the level of confidence that Aaron Rodgers and this Steelers offensive coaching staff has in Roman Wilson, in Scotty Miller, and Ben Skoranek, and maybe Isaiah Hodgins to hold up the fort until Calvin gets back. I will say this. I know Aaron Rodgers really likes Scotty Miller as a route runner, and I think that in terms of replacing Calvin Austin III's role in this offense, Scotty can at least adequately fill that role, but also Roman hopefully can fill that role pretty adequately as well. So I don't expect Calvin to be out very long. The next 2 games for the Steelers, the Browns and Bengals, very winnable ball games with or without Calvin in the lineup. So honestly, Zoop, if you're getting your hopes up that they make a move at receiver, I would probably temper my expectations. Then we got one from Kevin. He says, do you think they'll use Caleb Johnson more in Cleveland and Cincinnati games? Honestly, no. I think they'll use him less. Jalen Warren's going to be back. Kenny Gainwell's coming off a big game. They're going to want to use those 2 guys. Maybe as the season goes on, there's an injury to one of the starting running backs, and Caleb gets an opportunity to play more as the season goes on. But honestly, as long as Jalen Warren and Kenny Gainwell stay healthy, and as long as those 2 are playing good football, Caleb's not going to get any opportunities in this offense. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Will Caleb Johnson get more snaps? F. Ponzi in the chat for the double wills there. Get more snaps as the season goes on. Give me a yes or a no. And, of course, type F. Ponzi for getting the graphic wrong. All right. So is that going to be it for questions today, Ponzi? All right. That's going to be it for today's show. Thank you so much for stopping by here. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers. F. Ponzi in the chats. Can they hear you? Ponzi doesn't have God. Double F Ponzi.
It was I saw it, I was like, do you believe? And I was like, that's not gonna fit. And then I was like, you know what, I can fix it to will. And then I didn't realize I had a second will.
Well, still F Ponzi in the chat.
Yeah.
But tonight, Ponzi, we're gonna wrap up the show here talking a little bit about Thursday night football. We got 49ers and Rams. Mac Jones gets the start. He will not have Juwan Jennings. He will not have Ricky Pearsall.
This is the most obvious pick I've made in my entire life.
Yeah, I got to go with L.A. I'm probably going to be watching the Yankee and Red Sox game. So I think Matthew Stafford and that offense in L.A. is awesome. San Francisco doesn't have Nick Bosa, so they're undermanned. And then on the other side of the ball, that L.A. pass rush could just get after people. So
now, I will ask you this, Sperry.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the 49ers season will, completely collapse?
The Steelers?
No, the 49ers.
Oh.
With all these injuries. I mean, Brock Purdy's only been able to play for 2 weeks.
Well, I don't know about that. I like Kyle Shanahan. We'll see how these guys can get back from injuries. But I will say this. San Francisco has the worst medical staff in the league.
Yeah, obviously.
In the league.
I mean, it's not even close.
Apparently, Brock Purdy's toe was not all the way healed last week. He got cleared to play, and then it got worse. So now he's out again for maybe multiple weeks, and you get Mac Jones for multiple weeks again. And you don't have George Kittle. You don't have all these – how many receivers are out for San Francisco? 4 or 5? Goodness gracious, it's just so many weapons missing, and somehow one of them isn't Christian McCaffrey, who's one of the most injury-prone players in the league. And then on defense, you don't have Nick Bosa. And by the way, Nick Bosa's injury, he says, he goes to the sideline, he's like, I tore my ACL. The doctor said, no, we think it's intact. And then, of course, he gets the MRI, and it's torn. How the fuck are you that incompetent as a medical staff where you're getting all these injuries, and then when injuries happen, you're misdiagnosing them?
I mean, it's one of those things, too, where it's it hasn't been, just this year. The medical staff has been kind of bad, throughout the last 4 years.
Right.
Since Kyle Shanahan really kind of, I don't know if the stats right, but I think they're top 5 in most injuries sustained in the NFL since Kyle Shanahan took over.
They might be number 1.
They might be number 1.
Probably
I mean,
number
I think
one,
either that or it's LA.
I don't know, but Stanford's right across the fucking street from San Francisco's facility. You have Stanford Medical Center right there. How do you have the worst medical staff in the NFL in that area of the country? Makes no sense. Makes no sense at all. And honestly, it sucks because like Kyle Shanahan is awesome as an offensive play caller, and they like if that team was healthy, that team would be probably undefeated and they would be rolling right now. All right, but they're not, so they're not. So I'm picking. No Ricky Pearsall, no Juwan Jennings, no George Kittle, no Nick Bosa, no Brock Purdy.
Who do they have at wide receiver?
Kendrick Bourne, MVS.
Oh my God. Go back to like 2018.
It's bad, dude. They have no weapons right now. So
I'm picking the 49ers, obviously. Not 49ers, Rams.
Obviously the 49ers.
Well, obviously the Rams. I mean, the 49ers are just...
Maybe the more interesting game that we can talk about here is Yankees-Red Sox.
Let me see if I can get something here.
I'm going to go...
Who do you want? I mean, this is the Jack Lotteray matchup that we've been talking about.
I mean, for the people that have been with this channel for a while, you guys know who Jack Lotteray is. He is a big Red Sox fan, and he's been talking a lot of shit.
A lot.
In the office this week.
He will be streaming the game, so if you want to go...
Yeah, by the way, if you want to check out Jack's stream, he'll be live for the Red Sox game tonight. It's going to be an interesting one for sure. I mean, these are bitter rivals.
I need to check on my
Season's on the line tonight. I'm guessing it's going to be a very heavy bullpen game, especially for Boston, because I think they got a rookie on the mound.
They got a rookie on the mound.
So I think it's going to be a bullpen game for Boston.
Let me check.
I'm going to go ahead and pick the Yankees tonight because obviously they're home. I think they've got the pitching advantage tonight.
Oh, dang, we're losing.
Padres
are losing right now.
Oh, what's the score?
2-0.
2-0. Oh, Ponzi's shaking in his boots. We better end the show here so he can watch the collapse of his baseball team tonight.
My favorite team, but honestly, this might be a controversial pick, but I really think the Red Sox have it.
Okay.
I think Trevor Story has been really good. I think Alex Bregman's been stepping up into a good role. And I don't know if, you could talk about the Boston bullpen. That Yankees bullpen has been known to choke a little bit in the season.
All right. I'm going to go Yankees. Ponzi's going to go Red Sox. I guess we'll see who ends up winning that bet there. But next time we'll be live, guys. We'll be live next Tuesday, okay? Next Tuesday. We'll be live for our next live show. Obviously, no Steelers game this weekend. But we'll make sure to get you guys plenty of coverage. We'll let you guys know how the Ravens do and how the Browns do and all these different teams, and the Bengals and all these guys. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Really do appreciate all of your guys' support. And until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.